This is Red Wine Varietals, and today we're talking about Pinot Noir. Here's your phonetical spelling. I'll say it slower. Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is a light-bodied red wine. The skins of the grape are really thin, so there's only so much color you can extract from that grape in order to get it to the dark red color that it needs to be. Therefore, because of the thin skins, it can't help but exhibit the ground that it's grown in. So you'll often hear tasting notes on Pinot Noirs of them being earthy. All right? Now, earthy would be one style, but you could have earthy combined with more of the bright fruit flavors like strawberry and cherry. And sometimes there's not going to be any earthiness at all. It's just going to be a bright, light-bodied wine with a lot of cherry and berry, maybe some essence from the wood that it was aged in, perhaps a little bit spicy. The Pinot Noir grape is also low in tannins and high in acid. So you'll find that the wines actually are more of an acidic style red wine than a tannic style red wine. Pinot Noir is originally from Burgundy, France. It's going to be cultivated by the Roman soldiers about 100 AD, and it has since spread all around the world. Now let's talk about some of the hottest spots for Pinot Noir right now. Willamette Valley, Oregon is basically being called the Burgundy of the West. So Willamette Valley is also making great Pinot Gris as well. New Zealand has Pinots that are scoring really, really highly. There's also going to be, on the north coast of California, you have the Santa Barbara area. So Santa Lucia Highlands, Santa Ynez, Santa Maria Valley. Up to Monterey, there's some Pinot Noirs being produced there that are doing well. And then you've got in the Sonoma area, Russian River makes great Pinot Noir. At the bottom of Sonoma, you have Carneros Sonoma. Also, Carneros Napa is making Pinot Noir that's doing well. All the way up into Mendocino and the Anderson Valley, there's some great Pinots coming from that area as well. Other areas that we do need to mention is going to be Argentina and Chile are both producing Pinot Noirs that are making up to our market. And then I have seen Pinot from Australia and Tasmania as well. All right, so there's going to be a movie that's going to change the history of Pinot Noir, and it's the movie Sideways. It came out in 2004, and it changed the Pinot Noir industry drastically. The main character is a big Pinot Noir geek, and he basically slams Merlot and only drinks Pinot Noir. At least he only seems to drink Pinot Noir in the movie, and sales for Pinot Noir has exploded since. Now, Pinot Noir is extremely difficult to work with because of their thin skins. They are very delicate, so you have to pick them right at the perfect time of maturity, and then you can have a lot of issues in the winemaking process as well. So having said that, there is a fantastic, famous winemaker who is now deceased. He was a Russian immigrant that was one of the first people to come to Napa and put Napa on the map. His name is Andrei Chelichov, and he has a famous saying about Pinot Noir. And he goes like this. This has to do with how difficult it is to grow. While God made Cabernet Sauvignon, the devil made Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is extremely food friendly. As a matter of fact, the way my palate developed, I realized that I actually prefer Pinot Noir with food rather than drinking it all by itself. So let's talk about some basic principles of food pairing and how that's going to work with Pinot Noir. First of all, the basic principle of like with like is basically saying that you're going to use the characteristics of the wine and pair that with characteristics similar in the food. So, considering the fact that the skins of Pinot Noir are very thin, they can't help but exhibit the ground they're grown in, as in showing the soil, as in an earthy style wine. So, think of earthy style foods, all right? So, Pinot Noir that's earthy pairs well with mushrooms. They're grown in the ground. Escargot has an earthy taste to it. And then we have hummus, otherwise known as garbanzo bean paste. That has a very earthy taste to it, so it's going to pair with the earthiness of the wine. Now, when it comes to fish, it's going to have a little bit bigger a body than some of the white fishes can handle, and it would throw it out of balance. So using the basic principle, keep it in balance. When it comes to fish, I like to pair it with salmon and ahi tuna. Now look at the color of salmon and ahi tuna. It's a light red meat. When Pinot Noir is a light red wine. So visually this is working. Body-wise this works as well. And when it comes to poultry, duck, especially a duck, like a duck with a little bit of gaminess and earthiness to it, pairs well with the Pinot Noir, especially the earthy style Pinot Noirs. Pheasant, chicken, they're not going to overpower one another. They're not going to try to bully each other out in the palate, so they're in balance and they're not overpowering each other. All right. And then when it comes to meat, use this saying, and it'll never let you down: Pinot Noir and pig. All right, so pork. Anything pork works with Pinot Noir. So you could have ham, pork chops. You could have scallops that are wrapped in bacon. It's that bacon flavor that you're going to taste the most, and the Pinot Noir will be pairing with that bacon. So anything pig. And then when it comes to meat, cold cuts work sometimes, but what you don't want to do is pair a Pinot Noir with something like a big ribeye or filet mignon, because the taste will overpower that Pinot Noir and it'll disappear. So that's throwing it out of balance. Pinot Noir and red Burgundy are the exact same varietal. If it's from France, it's called a red Burgundy. If it's from anywhere else in the New World, it's called Pinot Noir. While we're talking about it, white Burgundy is Chardonnay. New World Pinot Noir is not structured for long periods of time in the bottle. As a matter of fact, 6 years is probably a good ripe age to drink a Pinot Noir, and 8 years could be pushing it. Pinot Noirs have the thin skins, therefore they're less in tannins. The tannins works as a preservative that actually breaks down and creates some complexity in the wine. It doesn't have that fuel to work with. Now, if it's coming from the old world, as in Burgundy, France, the red Burgundies actually do age well. As a matter of fact, there are people who think that if you open a red Burgundy before the 15-year mark, you're wasting it. So they can hit 15, 20, sometimes longer than that in a bottle. And the reason being is because of the acid structure of red Burgundies. They are particularly high in acid. That acid keeps the wine fresh and allows it to age longer. Pinot Noir is one of the 3 varietals used to make Champagne in Champagne, France. While we're talking about it, those other 2 varietals are Pinot Meunier and Chardonnay. Now, if you are in a New World winery that is making champagne like they do in Champagne, France, you're also going to be using the Pinot Noir along with the Pinot Meunier and Chardonnay. Now, I have not seen a whole lot of Pinot Noir blends, maybe 2, and since I've been in the business, but one that really stands out, I'm going to name drop here, is from a winery in Sonoma called Flowers. They make Flowers Perennial, and basically what it is Pinot Noir blended with Pinot Meunier and Syrah. And I actually taught the staff to describe this as a Pinot Noir on steroids, and it sold really well for us. Pinot Noir is expensive to make. It's difficult to grow. It's difficult in the winemaking process. It causes the cost to go up. So when you see a bottle of Pinot Noir in the grocery store for below $15, beware. All right, so I'm not saying that you can't find a decent Pinot Noir for under $15, but it would have to be a situation to where perhaps the winery has owned the land that they are growing the Pinot Noir on for years and years and years, so they don't have to incorporate the cost of the land into the bottle. Therefore, it could possibly be lower than $15. But when you see one for $10.99, it probably has a little Syrah blended into it, not necessarily true to its varietal. So the lowest $15, and then some of the more cult status Pinot Noirs can be pushing $100, not only in a restaurant situation, but also on a retail shelf. And then when we talk about the red Burgundies from France, some of the Grand Crus, the most expensive ones, are pushing $500, $600, and even higher than that sometimes. All right, there are hundreds and hundreds of Pinot Noirs out there that are worth mentioning right now, but I really don't have enough room in this space right here, so I'm going to keep this real brief. I'm going to give you 2 cult wines. First of all, that's going to be Sea Smoke and Costa Brown. Both of these are hard for me to get as a buyer and easy for me to sell for people who know about these wines. My personal experience with a consistent wine that I have embraced and had great experiences with vintage after vintage is going to be Soko Blosser. It's a little winery out of Oregon. And then my 2 best-selling Pinot Noirs at 2 different locations is going to be Mossback from Russian River and A to Z from Oregon.